with a lot of things where this stuff continues to hurt and further divide, which we don't need more division in this country. It's certainly one thing we don't need, and a lot that we did get from a president that was our first minority president who really had an opportunity, a grand opportunity to bring races together, and instead he had to inflame the situation and put our police officers further in jeopardy to question their investigations when they turned out to be correct in most of the cases that he stuck his head in there and went above the DOJ and interfered in investigations and to put his 2 cents in. It's things like that that have stuck with a lot of people in this country and that have got a lot of our police officers killed. To insinuate that our police officers are bad, and there's a lot on the left that still propagate that thing. I'll never forget. And I have not visited the Capitol anytime soon. I haven't been back in Washington in many years. But the portrait of the pigs, of police officers being portrayed as pigs in a picture that was proudly displayed in the Capitol. I hope it's been removed. I heard it was removed, it was brought back, removed, and then it could be brought back again. I don't know. I'm going to have to research to find out. But it's just that kind of disdain. It's all in the name of art. So you're able to have pigs at the Capitol, but you can't have Robert E. Lee. You can't have Christopher Columbus as a statue. You can't have any of these figures. There's no denying who they were. I mean, there's some figures in history that I'm not very fond of, but people recognize them because they were. I mean, what are we going to do? Remove steeples from churches because it offends people? We've had to take down crosses at universities and schools. We can't say prayer. Is it soon that we're just going to have to take signs down for churches because it makes people feel uneasy? It makes people feel uncomfortable? I mean, this is going to be a downward spiral. To me, there's got to be a common sense approach to stop this lunacy. This is insane. I would expect this from California. But you got de Blasio in New York wanting to remove most of the statues, if not all the statues from New York. And at the same time, let's go ahead and let's rename New York City. Let's rename New York City because, come on, the Mr. York of Dutchess was the largest slave owner in the United States, named after New York. Yeah, Mr. York. So do your history a little bit, but nobody's mentioning that. Would that be a little difficult to change the name of New York on all the maps and all the apps and paperwork and all that? I mean, let's just change it. Let's do it. Because what's more offensive, the guy owned more slaves than anybody in history. So let's change New York to be something else. It's named after him. That's history, folks. That's real history. Who owned more slaves? What was him? I mean, you could just go on and on and on about this, but I want to turn the page a little bit. Not a better story either, but it's about how the left is up the stakes in its guerrilla operations against Republicans, as deep-pocketed groups fund protesters to show up in not just the offices now, but it's getting into the houses of congressmen to protest their lack of town hall meetings. Earlier this month, protesters targeted the home of Representative Jason Lewis, who is a newly elected Republican, as some of you might know, in Minnesota's 2nd District, Minnesota. The protest on his doorstep, protesters there grew big enough that one of his neighbors had to call the police. Very unfortunate. Congressman said, "Fortunately, my family wasn't home at the time." Lewis was telling Fox, "I ran for Congress, but my father didn't run, so to bring them into it is not keeping with the best of American tradition." Yeah, protesters have shown up at the home of other Republican lawmakers in swing districts such as Representative John Faso of New York, Representative Darrell Issa of California. Note, all Republicans. Some 200 protesters showed up at Issa's home to blast him for not holding town hall meetings, leading his spokesman to say, dragging the congressman's wife and family into this goes beyond the pale. Local chapters of left-wing groups called Invisible helped organize and lead those two protests. Unbelievable. This is a well-oiled, very much activist plan to disrupt the democratic process. And a lot of people are very convinced, increasingly. Even Hillary Clinton's group is doing this. Barack Obama's group is doing this. Remember, he said that he's going to have a shadow government. And they're called targets, folks. Yes, they're called targets. If you're a Republican, you're a target. Yeah, just like the GOP where they were playing a charity baseball game there in Alexandria, Virginia. Remember that? They were targets. If this climate continues in our country, folks, if you're a conservative, I am convinced you're going to be a target one way or another. It's very dangerous in our country, folks. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Hell's fury has been unleashed. You get somebody that has common sense, is not the status quo, and not going to let people just get away with just murder. They're having a temper tantrum. Be careful, folks. I tell folks, have a gun at your residence. Have one on you. Get it registered. Know how to use it. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but if Grandma could use the gun in Tennessee, not just in Texas or in Illinois or wherever you're listening to the broadcast, get one. Don't matter how old you are, get one. And they have the ones with the laser on it where you just point and shoot, and there you go. You got to protect yourself these days. If they're going to these folks' homes, you don't know who in the heck is going to follow you around because of your conservative values. The targets say that the whole operation is part of a 1-2 punch orchestrated from the top, in which left-wing groups throw their first punch by rounding up activists and training them to be disruptive as possible during the when the representative there is at the town hall. They are disruptive, so whoever is speaking can continue. Then, when lawmakers stop holding those events, the group throws their second punch by protesting at their home. So this is basically what their plan is. This is what their strategy is. So it's good for us to kind of know what their strategy is. It says if it started with these groups Invisible, which created a popular guide for making members of Congress look bad at town halls, the group says that the guide is now used by over 5,800 local groups and has at least 2 groups in every congressional district. The guide tells activists how to work as a team to hector a representative. It says that after one activist takes a question at a town hall, other group members around the room should amplify by either booing members of Congress or applauding you. The guide also advises activists to go further and refuse to give up the microphone after their question. It gives them a script to follow. Congressional staffers object, then you say politely but loudly, "I'm not finished." So the mock is dodging my question. Why are you trying to stop me from following up? And the guide published December 2016 with the goal to stop petty tyrant named Who is his name? Donald Trump spells out ways to make the representative look bad in detail. So this was designed primarily for Trump. Lawmakers say the town halls used to be the place where they could have meaningful interaction with constituents, but don't work when the place is packed with activists trying to cause a scene. A spokeswoman for Invisible told Fox News that the group simply puts more political power in the hands of the people to hold members of Congress accountable. It was not surprised that some members of Congress who were hoping their constituents would notice or care how they vote might be disappointed to see a renewed interest in holding them accountable. Invisible President Manager Helen Kayla said, reviving the traditional town hall as the primary forum for constituents to engage with their representatives contributes to a healthier democracy. Yeah, when they disrupt things. Just like watching CNN, when they put curveballs and they're nasty and they're jeering. They're not asking a real question. That's called a loaded question. There's one thing of asking a straight-up question and not doing it to be mean-spirited about it. And that's the problem with the mainstream media. They're just mean about it. The town halls, you can ask tough questions, and they should be held accountable. I'm all for it. It's just they're taking their marching orders and getting their money to do this, to be disruptive because they don't like the agenda. They don't like what they stand for, and they don't like they're conservative. That's just the bottom line. So, folks, you had to hear it. I had to put it out there. It's one thing to just talk about it and vent about it, but it's also to say, hey, there is a strategy. And is an all-out effort of assault against the right and against religious groups in this country. And it continues, folks. Trump, he's been tweeting, and he's always tweeting. And I like a lot of his tweets, absolutely. But this one is eclipsing Obama in a Twitter frenzy. Apparently, Trump launched into a Twitter storm yesterday morning, retweeting a meme of someone who had complained about Jewish drivers and sending out a typo-laden tweet to his followers, then deleting and retweeting again. So the president's morning on Twitter kicked off with a post attacking Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Speaker of the House Paul Ryan about the debt ceiling and legislation that he hoped GOP leaders would pass. He says, I request that Mitch and Paul Ryan tie the debt ceiling legislation into the popular VA bill, which just passed for easy approval. Trump, wrote in the first tweet. He soon added, didn't do it, so now we have a big deal with Dems holding them up as usual on debt ceiling approval. Could have been so easy, now a mess. And he later added, the only problem I have with Mitch McConnell is that after hearing repeal and replace for 7 years, he failed. That should have never happened. And then, about an hour and a half after the first posting, Trump set out a Twitterverse, a buzz after the retweeted a meme of showing himself eclipsing President Obama. And the four-way split image shows Trump moving slowly into frame until he completely covers the image of Obama. Trump is in color. Obama is in black and white. And the text on the meme reads, the best eclipse ever. YouTube actor and self-described political junkie Jerry Travone says that he found the image on the internet and tweeted the meme at Trump. An unrelated tweet on Travone's account from Sunday reads, we have had enough of these Jews where I live. Laughing out loud. Someone else take them. They just can't drive. Love the eclipse. Love that altogether. But Travone denied that he's anti-Semitic. I mean, that seems wrong, I know, reading that, but he explained his reason for writing the message, that he says it was just an emotional expression. I was referring to Lakewood, New Jersey, and the horrible drivers of that town, and that happens to be mostly Jewish people that live there. And then he earlier told NBC News that he found the image that Trump retweeted on social media. He said, I got tired of hearing people say how our president hasn't accomplished anything, and